I'd like to welcome Andy Doriaswamy. He's the founder for for Koya Medical and the CEO. So this is a new exciting technology. Can you tell us about what is Dayspring from Koya Medical?
Yeah, thank you, Anil. Thanks for having me. I'm the founder CEO of Koya Medical. We're a fast-growing team that has developed a platform for a new offering for lymphatic and venous patients. So, as you know, as a lot of your listeners know, lymphedema, phlebo lymphedema is a chronic, incurable disease that unfortunately a lot of our fellow citizens and people across the world suffer from. The way we discovered this is, my background has been a healthcare innovator, primarily in ophthalmology. But about several years ago, I discovered this through my dad, who had this condition, through his dealings with cancer surgery. So as I started looking into it more, it turns out that one, there aren't too many solutions out there, and two, the comorbidity and the chronicity of this, especially when you look at chronic venous disease, it's astounding. The pooling of the venous lower on the lower extremity and the return that it suffers, and the damage it does to the lymphatic system is pretty obvious, right? And the only treatment when we first looked at it was compression stockings, which I'm sure your patients would agree is really very difficult to put on. If you've tried about putting one on, you'll know, right? Most of them don't use it. And then there have been these legacy pneumatic devices, much like sleep apnea devices that you plug in and you're sitting on a couch wearing these things or sleeping or something like that, right? So I think one of our thought leaders said a body at rest will stay at rest. And these patients, and including my dad as they age, is to stay at rest. You need to be mobile, you need to be working out. Movement is essential. Even for you and me as human beings, as we continue to age, movement is everything. So with that in mind, we invented, developed, and now we're commercially available in the US with coverage and overall care path that we're addressing. We're providing it directly, the team Koya, with a device that you can essentially get your treatment on the go. So we've taken the benefits of a compression garment that offers static. We've taken the benefits of pneumatic compressions that offers active, and you've cut the cord and say, you can move. You don't need to pause your life for an hour a day. That's essentially the technology. If the engineers are listening, this is quite the challenge because it involves a completely new way of engineering. Think of a garment coming alive, right? That's what we've done. And the way we've done it is we've weaved shape memory alloy into the garment, upper or lower extremity, where at a press of a button, the battery that's lithium ion transmits the required power to sequentially move the fluid from the distal end to the proximal end and clear. Movement enables that. Movement also enables usage. So the patient's not finding it difficult to put on or just staying at rest or, essentially horizontal. So that's the change we're hoping to bring. That is what Dayspring is, to spring into your life and get moving.
Quite frankly, I've had patients who use some of the older, larger devices where they were plugged into the wall for an hour and a half, 5 times a week, and they love the mobility. They love getting up and around, and I do think it is important. And I think it's a great point for the patients that you're not hooked up to a wall, that you have this small little battery that you carry around. But however, it's not the convenience that really drives a lot of this, it's the evidence. So what is some of the evidence? I know you've been involved with looking at some of the evidence. Can you tell us a little bit about the evidence for this new device as compared to other devices or other types of compression?
Yeah, so if I trained as a scientist. That's my background. And I also did some of my early training and innovation in ophthalmology, where your entry into the space starts with a clinical trial, right? At least several randomized studies, etc. So we come from a very interventional background, and we can talk about the future of what we see in Koya with respect to the venous and vascular disease. But as far as evidence is concerned, that's the primary approach that we took. And we've completed a dozen clinical studies. Two of them are very large randomized control studies, first of its kind, actually, in home health devices in the venous and lymphatic space. So we are now, one of them is already published in the Journal of Vascular Surgery. The other one is under review now, soon to be published. And these have compared it to the gold standard to, one, show that if you don't use the conventional therapies, you're not going to get the benefit, right? So that's pretty obvious, but we wanted to show that, hey, that is the control that is available today, is if you're not using it, if the adherence is not there, by default, you're not getting anything. But on top of that, if you end up using it, we wanted to evaluate what does our technology do for our patients. So one, we found out that the adherence was in the 90%, partly due to the ease of use and mobility, which is so key. You can take it with you anywhere you go. It's smaller than your handbag in a way, right? So that's one aspect. The other is the mechanism of action in this is unique in that it starts with a higher static compression and then it activates, and there is no air in it. So it's a non-pneumatic compression device that is its own category, and CMS is given its own code. So we were able to demonstrate longitudinally across several patients that we're able to see the benefit of usage. And that is compared to some of the gold standards available today and that have been around for the past. So we've looked at a variety of different things. We've even looked at imaging studies to look at NIRFly, or essentially near-infrared fluorescence imaging, and that is how you mark proteins in lymph to see the protein movement. So we've seen that even from a qualitative standpoint, and that is published too. So that is in our DNA. Anil, you'll probably see more and more of that from our team at Koya. It's a small team, but it's a team that understands the importance of clinical evidence.
So if I have a patient with pleural lymphedema who I think might be a good candidate, which type of patients can get coverage? What type of patients can actually get the device? How do I actually get them to try this out?
Yeah, so our reps that help patients on the service side to enable prescribers like you are we're growing fast nationally. So you're in Brooklyn, so obviously we have an active presence there. But if your patient is suitable, first they need a diagnosis of lymphedema, right? So if you're able to identify that, and if the patient is suitable, then we are able to onboard them with the prescription, with the data collected on their history. And we're able to file with Medicare. So the good news here is Medicare covers this product under a new set of codes. So they've issued new HCPCS codes, E category, its own, that was in conversation with the CMS team. Now, new codes are usually given to selective new technologies that enter the market, of which this is one. It'll probably outlast you and me, and it has its own pricing, and we're also in the commercial coverage as well. So a majority of the payers in your neck of the woods are covering it. We're talking to the other groups. We're under contract with several to have the product covered, given the evidence that we have. Finally, we also are in the VA. So if your patient is a former veteran, we're proud to say that we can directly service them. So part of how we've built Koya, Neil, is we handhold the patient through the entire process, from the beginning when you are able to identify all the way through their journey through customer service. Those are the Team Koya.
I can't stress the importance of the customer service, as we were talking about before. The customer service is equally as important as the device itself. And without that, for us, it really makes a big difference, quite frankly, with our patients. So yes, I can definitely attest to the excellent customer service and being key for compliance and also getting the product into their hands. So you mentioned the future of this field. You have a vision. Can you talk a little bit about the vision of where you see this field going?
Yeah, I think what I see, again, I think at the end of the day, um, I love what I do with this team. It's truly a joy to lead and be in the space where there's so much to do, so much to innovate, and it's also a very prominent and great unmet need. One could argue chronic venous disease is probably one where the prevalence and the incidence is high, especially with modern habits of diet or lack of exercise, etc. I don't need to tell you this, your community knows this well. So, part of the connection that I see, that our team, our leadership, and our team sees is not only can the care be provided at home, where you're hoping your patients take care of their life and become healthy again and manage some of these chronic conditions at home where you're not able to cure them. But also, when they come to you for vein closures superficially, which is the beginning of chronicity in many ways, because the blood's trying to get back and it struggles. So, whether it's vein procedures that you do in the office or even far into the continuum where you have to operate in these patients to remove occlusion. To me, coming in as a scientist, these are all fundamentally the same issue. With the same patient over longitudinally, the same caregivers like yourself and your team, and as folks who innovate and provide solutions, I see a continuum of care to partner with groups such as yours to, instead of just looking at us as a home health company, we're not. We're in the partnership and building solutions across the continuum. So, what else can we do in the office that makes sense to surgeons like you? And what else makes sense in the OR where we can reduce cost, improve efficacy and outcomes? That's the lens in which we see the world of vein and vascular care. And I'm happy to say more to come from Koya. I think hopefully next year or so you'll start to see more products and more innovations emerge.
Looking forward to it. Intrigued, but looking forward to it because this new device really is making a big difference. As you said, it's a largely underserved segment. We don't have a lot of good therapies. We've had some really striking success in some of our patients with chronic non-healing ulcers for years and decades. So it is a big difference. And the fact that the coverage from Medicare is rapidly expanded, I think has really made a big difference with some of the recent changes in legislation. So looking forward to some new devices, looking forward to more coming from Koya. Thank you very much for talking about some of the product from Dayspring. It's really, really exciting to see this new device helping us take care of our patients better.
Thank you, Anil. Thanks for having me.